You doing, David, this morning? But as you know, Kevin, my name is Kevin Darthard. Been born and raised here in Columbus all my life. Um, Grew up predominantly in the northern side of town, north side of town. Single parent home with a brother, older brother, uh, mother, Loretta Hillman, amazing mother. One of the strongest women that I know, that I've known, made so many sacrifices to ensure that me and my brother, you know, had a great life and tried to provide as much and did provide as much as she could. She worked in the institutions here in Columbus, the juvenile institutions, and as a social worker, and then she became a parole officer, and that's where she retired from.
Mm.
Yes, so very strong, very stern. It was loving, but she always said she had to be strong because she knew it was just her.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know my father at all. At one point didn't know what my father even looked like. That's predominantly my whole adolescent years. Brother was the same, but we had different fathers. So, and it kind of was as you're growing up. Not that you think about it daily, but it was something that father never was there. So it was just almost, I hate to say it, out of sight, out of mind. I always say it's worse when kids, have their fathers in their house, or, their fathers may be married to their mother, or, their fathers are in and out their lives. And I think that kind of plays a larger role in childhood trauma. We just didn't know our fathers, period. So as you get older, you start to have some questions. Why? Where is he at? Why this? Why that? But still, like I said, all I knew and all we knew was my mom. And like I said, she was great. Did have a stepdad in between, with some good times, was definitely some bad times. Definitely some things I shouldn't have seen. Definitely some things I went through, from domestic violence, drug use, things like that I probably shouldn't have seen as a third, fourth, fifth grader, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
You grow up, you go, elementary, middle, high school.
Where'd you graduate high school? Did you graduate
Mifflin
Northland?
High School. Nope, Mifflin.
Mifflin,
was
okay.
my alma mater. Mifflin was my alma mater. We bounced around right around the fourth grade. Not to be too long, but right around the fourth grade, we moved out of a really, really, really rough neighborhood. You could say Windsor Terrace area. So anybody that's from Columbus knows that back in those times, that was really, really rough area. Fifth Avenue, Windsor Terrace area. She wanted us to get out of there.
That's South Linden, right?
Yep. And so, at that time, and at that time we had our, stepfather was around, and things just were spiraling out of control with him. Things were spiraling out of control with my brother as well. It's kind of say I always followed behind my brother, but it was the point where he went left to the streets, and I just kept going right to sports.
So why? Like, what made you choose sports instead of following in your brother's footsteps?
That's a good question. Even at a young age, second, third, fourth grade, your environment, what's going on. You have friends your age, but they have older brothers, cousins, things in the neighborhood. We always say, kids are smarter than you think they are. What's going on, right from wrong. At that point in my life, like I said, in that environment, you definitely know who's doing this, who's doing that. Mom stayed in both our ear about making the right choices. Having some integrity about yourself, even at that age. So, and at that point she worked. And one of the main things at that point, my mom worked in the juvenile detention center. I believe it was called Tico or something like that out west. She would, and now I know with having a son, she would tell stories. She would just tell stories. This kid is in there until this kid is in there for this. This kid is in there for that. Look at this small mistake this kid made. Look at what this kid did, or give us examples. And I'll be like, wow, just made that mistake, or decided to do this, and wow. And I always say, I had a college class. They say nature versus nurture. Is it what's more important, how your parents is raising you, or naturally how you are? Nature versus nurture. I believe it's both. I believe it kind of will lean a lot on, naturally inside, inside how do you process things? How do you handle things? And so I'm not saying he maybe have processed it differently. Both of our fathers been at the house, and my brother was a little older. You got to understand that too. I'm third grade or so. He's sixth, seventh grade. So a little bit more influence. As you get older, you got a little bit more influence. That innocence kind of gets lost. The innocence kind of goes away. So but like I said, I don't know if he took it different. Me and him, we haven't had this solid conversation due to him being away for so long, but I believe that he took things a little bit differently with father out the house, and I believe he was a little bit more influenced and didn't have that whereabout to say, nah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, and your mom, probably her telling you, explaining some of those things clearly impacted you, and you not wanting to follow in that way. So we met it's been a year and a half. I think the first time I was at Linden McKinley High School, we met in the hallway, and then I started getting to know the team and coming in and, hanging out with them and you, and it's been a blessing to do that. And really, as I've seen you coaching those boys up and investing a lot of time in them, I've really respected you, the way you carry yourself, the way you train and teach these young men, and I've seen how they respond to you. And so I just wanted to I think what's happening right now in our country is, it's so telling, and it's been a long time. I mean, if you go all the way back to Eric Garner in 2014, and then just a couple weeks ago, Ahmaud Arbery, and then George Floyd, it feels like one event after another where particularly Black men have been they've been killed, they've been targeted, and just terrible things that have happened. So I guess how are you processing all this, Kevin? And how has this hit you personally, especially, with George Floyd?
I think, when you see it throughout the years in our community, well, first of all, I want to say, you asked me the question. A lot of, this is coming from my standpoint. I don't want to make like, I'm a spokesperson for everyone, but when you see it throughout the years, me personally, it's kind of like, okay, what's happened before, you've had some experience with it, because I definitely have, and you're like, okay, you don't really feel confident that even though it's being recorded, that true justice is going to be served, because it's just been happening. I think it was a quote said that this always been happening, it's just being recorded now. And even though it is being recorded, you're kind of like, I don't know if true justice is going to be served. Now, as it happens over and over again, and what you're getting now, and even with me, like you said, you get the frustration, and now you're fed up. How, it's in our face, it's blasted over the TV screen, it's blasted over social media. It's happened over and over again, and it's happening. And when we see it, it's the same race. It's Black people, Black men. how is it happening and no true justice is being served? And then it's a tipping point. And then, and that I think that's where we're at now. When I personally seen the George Floyd, I didn't want to watch it. I had a debate with a friend. We were going back and forth, giving our thoughts about it. And I said, let me watch it. And then, of course, they came out with all the different angles and stuff. And I just couldn't believe it. Just human decency. Of course, you see a black man. Of course, you see a black man pleading for his life, screaming he can't breathe. The one thing that got me was when he screamed for his mother. And he said it was like the 2-year anniversary. And I've been there, with my mom passing just a few years ago. And that can really affect a grown man, losing a mother. And when I heard that, and the look on the cop's face, his body language, his demeanor, like he didn't care. And then you just start to think about just human decency. Why, it's 4 cops on him. Why can't you just get your foot off his neck? He's screaming and yelling. He's cuffed. I believe the back door is even open. Why can't you just pick him up and throw him in the back seat? Why do you feel the need to keep the knee on his neck? And then, you, like I said, arrogant, whatever you want to call it, not caring. As the police officer that's addressing the crowd is saying, oh, he's talking, so that means he can still breathe. He went dull. He stopped talking, and the knee was still on his neck. It was bothering. That was bothering. That was bothering me watching that. That was real bothering.
You said earlier you've had experience. You said something like you've had experience of that. Mm-hmm. You mind if I ask you what do you mean by that?
I believe that if you polled every black male, probably between age of teenage years to, I don't know, 30s, 40s, and ask them, did they have a bad run-in with officers? They would say, yeah. Or even just ask them if they scared, if they're scared at night, if they're scared to get pulled over by the cop, if they're scared to get approached by a cop, they would say, yeah. And it's usually because of personal experience of or indirect, a close friend, a family member, and they seen it. Yes, I would say mid to late 20s. Had a pretty bad run-in with some, with police officers. It was me and my close childhood friends. We grabbed a bite to eat pretty late. I think we were coming back from somewhere. We grabbed a bite to eat pretty late, and was pulling into my apartment complex at that point, and noticed cops, just behind us. We even noticed the helicopter spotlight, cops behind us, and they just kind of swarmed on us. And my friend at that point had as this is happening, you're thinking like, why this, that, this. My friend had a Cadillac at that time, and when there's 3 of us in the car, 3 black males in the car, and guns drawn, not even guns drawn, loudspeaker, get out the car, and they're telling my friend that's driving, I'm in the passenger seat, they're telling my friend that's driving directions, step by step. But, turn off the car, put the hand on the steering wheel, roll down, put your hands out the car now. Open the car from the outside. And as this all happening, you're kind of looking in the rear view lights, it's everywhere, you can't see. You're like, why? There's no explanation, there's nothing. And told my friend as he got out the car, get on your knees. And my friend he's talking as he do, okay, I'm doing that. Mm-hmm. They want my keys out the window. Here I am on my knees. He's talking loud. Here I am on my knees, officer. Put your hands up in the air. Here they are up. Put your hands behind your back with your fingers locked. Behind your head with your fingers locked. Here they are, officer. Next thing, everything like that. So you would expect, them to walk up, maybe do what they have to do, explain the situation. At that point, once he was like that, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 cops, all you seen was just rush him, slam him on the ground, roughed him up a few times. He left with a swollen eye. Oh, he was messed up. As they was doing it, he's like, what's going on? Why? What did I do? I did everything y'all said. We're in the car and they're going off cussing. You better not get out the, car, this and that. We like, what? At this point, both of our hands is out the window. Like they said, passengers, stick your hands out the window. Eventually, they put us all in the back of the cop cars. By the time they talked and figured things out, after the fact, they say, we were looked like certain suspects they were looking for, and this and that. What we couldn't understand was why, a friend left with a swollen eye, why we did everything that they said do, the aggression still happened. That's why, at that point, we couldn't understand that. So, yeah, you've been through it.
Yeah. I mean, I have not been through it. I've never experienced that. And, that's probably, I think when something like this happens, it's, first of all, it's awful no matter who you are to see it, to see, Derek Chauvin doing what he was doing and George Floyd there. But I think and obviously you don't speak for all black people, all black males. I don't speak for all white people, all white males, just speaking for myself. I think it's difficult to talk about because, there's two things going on. One is feeling tremendous sorrow, for what happened, feeling some weird sense of guilt, but then at the same time feeling almost like defensive, like, hey man, I didn't do that. I'm not Derek Chauvin. I'm not putting my knee on anybody's neck. So why should I have to, be seen as, racist or whatever when this happens to somebody that somebody else did? And then combined with all that, I mean, I know police officers who are some of the most humble and godly people who I've known for years. And I feel like, man, now what is their life like now? And what is their work like now? Because they're not doing any of this stuff. And so it's like this, it's almost hard for me to figure out what I'm feeling when I'm thinking about all this stuff.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. I mean, it's hard. You put people in a box, and I think that's the problem. That's part of the problem in this situation. Once this is boiling for years, you start to categorize and put everybody in that same boat. I believe that we're all born. I mean, not born. I believe we all, due to life experiences, due to what we taught, due to religion. I mean, we all have our so-called biases due to our culture. We have our cultural biases. We all have our bias now. As you're growing up and becoming a man, becoming a woman, those biases due to experiences, due to what you've been through, due to things that have shaped you and molded you, they can turn into racism. I don't believe nobody's born racist. You could be taught. Unfortunately, some parents are teaching it in a roundabout way or in a direct way. Some parents are teaching it. All those, whether you're being taught it, what you've been through, what you've gone through. So those cultural biases that you just have due to where you grew up, due to religion, things like that, it can turn into racism. Like you said, I mean, I know, you, for example, plenty of white people that help the community, that help, I'm an advocate for the youth. That's in what we say, that's in the trenches, helping the youth day in and day out, sacrificing their time, sacrificing their finances to better the inner city, predominantly black youth. No, you can't box everybody, and I understand what you're saying. You have you go on a defense a little bit. Not me. Why are you saying all of us? I think that a lot of it is just people getting to a tipping point and just saying, forget this, forget this. I'm mad at everybody. And really, it really, I would say not even just per se cops. They say, you hear, it's the system because this cop did it, that cop did it, this happened before, and they keep getting off. It's the system. So then you get people, and you get the Black community, and now it's, pretty much everybody too, lumping it all together. It's everybody, forget it. And I'm not saying everybody does that, but I think I do think that's a bad thing to do. Can't do that, because we know, like I said, not every white person is racist, not every Black person is racist, not every white person is bad, not every, Black person is bad or good. You can't do that. Nah, I totally agree with what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. How have you have a son who is going to be a freshman. Mm-hmm. How have you interacted with him? I know you said you've been keeping in touch, trying to keep in touch with your guys on the team at Linden. You're a teacher at Hamilton. So when you are talking to, the next generation, be it your son or other students, how have you had any conversations? How have you approached this topic of race, or just of how to carry yourself out there? What have those conversations been like?
I mean, if you thinking of my son first, like I said, he's with me, and as he's getting older, teenager, and going into high school, really, I try to preach to him and keep an open mind. Really, the main thing, and especially as you talk about race and even dealing with situations or circumstances that may come up, I try to preach to my son, put yourself in a situation. Try to always put yourself in a situation where hopefully you're not in a predicament where something like this can happen. Now we know that you don't always have, in this situation, sometimes it just happens, and it's due to race. You're like, why young Black African kids are being young Black African American kids are being targeted. But the main thing I try to preach to my son, to be honest, and you heard it with the team, is just to have good character. You're there doing character education every Thursday, just to have good character all around. Be a man of integrity. Have honest, you know what I mean? Just be a good person. And that's accepting everybody, to be honest. Of course, things are going to be a little bit different. Of course, things are going to be a little bit harder for you because you're a Black kid in America. But have an open mind, have an open heart. And you heard me say that to the team as well. And really, I believe that the problem, and even with the race thing, I'm going to be honest with you, and I said it to the team, I believe the problem, that's why I say inner city youth is my passion, inner city youth. And that is socioeconomic. Yep. That's what I believe. We know we have, some, you have white kid on our team that's from the same environment that all those boys from Linden. He's faced with the same issues: low poverty, low income, born behind the 8 ball, don't have the resources, don't have the things that the, kids in the suburbs would have. And I believe that's where the focus should be. How can we lift up? How can we help? How can we provide more resources, more information to young inner city, low poverty stricken areas? And if you go in those areas, yes, it's heavy predominantly Black, but if you go in those areas, you see whites, you see Mexicans. Now you start, we got to have, you see all different cultures, and they're the ones, black men are being targeted, but the low income areas, they're being heavily targeted. And like I said, not enough poured into those areas that needs to be.
Yeah, I was actually talking to my wife earlier this morning. I was telling her we were going to have this conversation, and we were talking about that exact thing. If you growing up in New Albany, where my kids are blessed to grow up, versus growing up in Linden, it does, like, if you're African American and you're growing up in New Albany, you may, in fact, we were talking about something she saw posted where a guy, African-American male, who he takes walks. The only time he takes walks is when he's holding the hand of his 6-year-old daughter, and they have their little, fluffy dog, and when he's alone, if he's taking a walk, people look at him funny, and it's just different, So when he's with his daughter and his fluffy dog, it's all good. But when he's just by himself, he gets looks, and it's just, and so you can have that in New Albany, but the truth is, his 6-year-old daughter is going to grow up with many, many opportunities. If you are growing up in Linden and you are poor and you're in a single parent home and mom's working full time just to keep things afloat, it doesn't matter. It will be hard if you are white or black or brown.
Easily. And like I said, that's where my passion lies. And you got it right. If you're in it, and the thing is, that's what we all want as parents. I have Kev full time. He's going into high school. My whole focus is to, finish this 4 years strong. I'm like tunnel vision, give him as much resources, help I can. We say spoil, make sure as little as on his plate as possible to where he can go through and succeed, and set him up for hopefully college or his adult life. That's what we all want. Some can do it better or more than others. Now, you have a kid in the Linden area, I personally know basketball players that are working to pay bills in their house. I personally know high schoolers. I personally know at my elementary school at Hamilton, 5th and 6th graders, maybe even 4th graders, that are taking care of their kindergartners, preschool, younger siblings when they get home because they have to, like the saying goes, your father's not there, your mom working 8-hour shifts, your mom working doubles. At one point, my mom did that. It got to the point where I was in high school, though, and I could kind of look after myself. But at one point, yes, especially weekends or second job, working doubles, trip 8, come back home for an hour, then work another 8. Sometimes it would be doubles back to back. Now, if you're doing that in a low impoverished area, I don't know where my next meal is coming from. I'm also only in the 5th grade and responsible for my 1st grade, 2nd grade, or kindergarten younger sibling. It's almost like, what do you expect to happen? And that's what's going on. Like I said, how can we funnel and put more resources in the inner city areas to help those children out? Because that's to me, that's where lying the problem. And then you get kids lost and you don't make the wrong decisions.
Yeah. And you see people like, I think the, all the things that are happening right now with the riots and the looting, deplorable and terrible. And, there are people who I'm sure are just opportunistic, taking the time in the chaos to go and take advantage. But I think there's also people who, like you're describing, who just don't have a lot of hope that they're going to be able to live a productive life and have a stable life. And if you don't have that hope, like you don't have a lot to lose. And that's,
you hear the kids say, I'm get it by any means, or I gotta live, I gotta survive. And at a young age, you develop a survival attitude, survival mentality. And this is what happens, I seen what working a 9 to 5 does, because like I said, so far behind the 8 ball, I've seen what just working a 9 to 5 does. I have 2, 3 brothers single. I can't. That doesn't get it done. I can't go that route. And you may see them make some bad choices. Don't mean that they're a bad person, but like I said, I believe that if we can fix that, And now I ain't gonna say it's so-called, it just happens to be that a lot of the inner city youth that are going through those problems are African-American kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, but you do have all cultures that are, a lot of different cultures in the areas. We even talk about just the Linden area that's going through as well. But a lot are African-American kids. And then, like I said, a lot are more so targeted too as well. And they feel like I'm put in a situation, like you said, where I have no hope and I can't win. And then generationally that happens over and over again, and you feel like you're stuck in this environment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I also like just thinking about the gospel and what the way that Christianity understands and explains who we are, that we are we're made in the image of God. We all bear God's image, white, black, brown. We all are created by a God who loves and who has given us all dignity and inherent worth, no matter what we look like, no matter what we can do, can't do. And then you have throughout the Bible this command for God's people to, like, there's in our church, we have a memory verse every month that we ask, we try to get people to memorize. So this month for June, it's Micah 6:8, which says, "What does the Lord require of you but to do justly, to love mercy, to walk humbly with your God?" And that's like all throughout the Bible. And so, we look around and we see all of the racial tension, and we see all police officers unfairly, called racist, which is not true. We see looting and violence, and the gospel offers a way out, a way to view one another in the way we're supposed to, and a command to go and to do justice, to serve people who, like you're talking about, kids growing up in really difficult situations. And the gospel also tells us that all of us fall short of who we should be. Like we need help outside of just trying hard, although we all should try hard, but we actually need a savior. And that's who Jesus is. He came to rescue, whoever would turn to him. And then, like, he wants to use us in the lives of people around us. So, maybe
what is your people at what is your congregation? What are their response to the I guess what are their what are you getting a feel of their response to the protesting that's being taken place? Well, just even here in Columbus, to the protests that's being taken place, and to the obviously it's protesting, obviously there's looting, things like that. But what do they feel? Do they feel like it's just? Do they feel like it's right? Do they feel comfortable with what is being demonstrated by the people?
I think there's tremendous, and again, I can't speak for everybody in our church, but here are my broad observations. One, deep sorrow over what happened, with George Floyd, and just kind of like you, it's, you don't want to watch, but it's almost like you can't help but watch, and just how horrible that was. That's one. Number two, I think there's a recoiling from all the violence and chaos that's happened. Man, this is not, how do we go from, okay, a crime was committed in Minneapolis, Minnesota, to we're going to destroy all this property and burn down businesses. So there is, I mean, there's that. And then I think there are folks who want to help. What do I do? I mean, I was talking to my daughter yesterday. There's a protest here in New Albany at 2:30. She wants to go. So great. But I think there's overall a lot of sorrow and a desire to not be part of the problem, to be part of helping. But there's also, I think, a little bit of, and this is true for me, what do we do to address these issues in a way that is constructive, not just condemning other people, because, very personally, I mean, Jim, Amy, Rob, these three, two brothers, one sister in Christ, who are dear friends, who are police officers. And I mean, it's rough right now. Yeah. They're risking their lives every night. They are, there are very few people that I know that love and have demonstrated commitment to poor Black community, predominantly Black communities than those three. And so there's a whole bunch of stuff swirling around, I guess. And there's probably also some defensiveness as well. Like, well, I didn't, like I was saying earlier, I didn't do it. So, and that's not necessarily good, but none of us, like, we just don't want to, I don't think people want to feel like they're part of the problem. Nobody wants to feel like that.
I think that, and even when you look at the protests and stuff, what you're talking about, what can I do to make a real change or start to make a real change? And that's productive. Like I said, the protesting is totally fine. We see that, we're living through history. We've seen it in history books growing up. And like now we're here. Now we're really here with this protesting. Like I said, it's a tipping point and a boiling point. Obviously, even myself being Black, I don't agree with the looting. Like you said, opportunist and even with the age of social media, even with the age of all this information that we have that can be blasted, I personally believe some are doing it as opportunists. Ooh, I can take this great picture and say I was down here, and ooh, look at me. I'm really doing this, and really it's about like I said, look at me. I think that the ones that's truly trying to make a difference are the ones that really is about the cause or really trying to do something. Not saying that you're not going to go protest or not going to try to broadcast some things, put it out in the open, but what are you really doing behind the scenes? And like I said before, I had to talk with another female. We were talking, and she's all about young African American kids and helping them out. She even said, you've seen these people that's saying this and putting up different things on social media and things like that. But what have you been doing before this point for the community or for these kids or for this cause? What have you been doing up to this point? You know what I mean? So even with you saying like your daughter wanted to protest, or even some people in the congregation trying to figure out what can we move forward. Like I said, with me, I just lean towards you focus on the youth. Obviously, they're the future. Obviously, they're not the only ones. Obviously, George Floyd was an adult Black male, but the youth, the young Black African-American kid or the inner city kid, they're being targeted. They may feel like they have no hope. They may not have the full structure, resources, everything that they need. How can we bring them up consistently, day in and day out? And that's why, like you said sometimes you're on the defensive. I know for a fact it's not every white person that's racist. I asked you, and we talked about doing our character education with the kids every Thursday. There's not one penny you've been paid. You have sacrificed your time. You have given so much to the program, to the kids. I've had parents say their kid has came home and talked to them about it. I know for a fact certain circumstances really woke up, when you had the guy came in that was
Alec Harper,
African-American male, convicted felon. When he told his story, I know for sure it struck a nerve and stuck with the kids. And you, from all the other things you do at Linden. So that's really, to me, the change right there.
So that's what we could do That's what we could do when you're like, because that's ultimately like as a predominantly white suburban church, what can we do? So the answer is we can get more engaged in the Linden community. We can serve with more. We can just show up and be there and serve. And also, we got a lot to learn too. So we can listen too.
Oh yeah, because not everyone, even the ones that are saying, why are they hating me? Why are they lumping us? I have to understand. Like I said, this is years and years and years, and the trust isn't there. African American community, the trust isn't there for the white race. They don't trust it anymore. So therefore, yeah, it's been a lot. It's being lumped together. But like you said, as you're there in the community, as you're there helping, day in and day out, you develop that trust. There's no doubt in my mind. I trust everything that come out your mouth, and I know you're genuine. As you and whoever wants to help, things like that, helping in the community. And it's not about how can I put it? It's not about, when I say help, it's not about like, oh, give us money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We just give some money here and give some money there. No, it's not just about that. It's about time, effort. We know knowledge, education is everything. What are we doing to just better serve these young inner city African American youth? You know what I mean?
Yeah, the way I see it, like what you're doing, both as a dad and a coach, is you're giving a different vision. Like you talked about the beginning of the year, you wanted to win the City League, and Linden hadn't won the City League since '92, back when I graduated, which was we did have automobiles, but we didn't have much else. So it'd been a while, and you put that vision out there for them, but you've always said all along that the vision is not just for basketball. It's for these young men to grow up to see a different alternative than what is sometimes just all they see around them. So and I think that happens really, hopefully, as you continue to do your work, as we try to serve and do what we can. It's about building relationships, really, and then helping kids to have a vision for their life that's different than maybe what they're going through as they're growing up.
And relationships is everything. Trust is everything. Even with teaching, same thing with me. I absolutely love what I do. When I get up every day and go over to teach at the elementary school, there's no ounce in my body that's feeling down or upset. Oh, I got to go into work. I absolutely love what I do. I love the kids that I service. The few chances, a couple other schools in a different part of Columbus, we would love to have you here. We would love to have you here. I love the Hamilton, Linden. I love the Linden area. Like I said, went to the middle school next door, walked home at one point right in that area. And my thought is even like with relationships, and you see maybe teachers frustrated. You see maybe other individuals frustrated that could help. But they, you hear, oh, I'm done with these kids. I'm giving up on these kids. If everybody does that, then you're back to square one. No. Stay in the area. Help out these kids. These kids, I tell them all the time, these are young kings, young queens. They got their whole life ahead of them. And if you can deal with, and we're talking about the balance of it, a kid growing up in New Albany and a kid growing up in the Linden area. Yes, they're behind the 8 ball, but understand, if I can be born and raised in that area, see crime, see poverty, be hungry, single parent household, experience pain as a kid, have to go to school, have to do my work, experience more pain as I become a little older in middle school, see things done to my father, see things done to my mom that I shouldn't see, walk the streets kind of scared, on eggshells, see drugs over and over again, right? And you're traumatized, and you get to high school and you stick it out, and you do like a Logan on our team and graduate with a 4.2 and go to Ohio State. When you take that narrative behind the 8-ball, no, you're further behind the 8-ball because you know how to deal with a whole lot rather than like we say, a kid that was maybe born in a little bit more privilege. You know how to take on a whole lot on your play. I firmly believe that. That's why I believe in these kids. This is what they're dealing with, and we have many success stories, like I said. But as we're dealing with this issue and the race issue, and how things change and how can you help, but you're just still dealing with so much. Like I said, so many kids with a lack of hope. So many kids being told they're less, being told they're not, and in this situation, like I said, it feels like being targeted. How can we get out of that situation? Like I said, educate more, provide more, help more, to where both sides is more understanding. And like you said, it's all about relationships.
Yep.
It's all about relationships.
Great, man. Well, Coach, thank you so much.
I think there's something like this. It's something small, but even like you said, if your congregation be able to hear it, I'm not the spokesperson for every Black person, but if they can hear a little bit of our thought process, our minds. Like I said, everybody may not have the same thought process as me. I just know that the two most important things is with me is having good character as a man. You're gonna make mistakes. Having good character as a man. And I truly believe education is everything. So how can we help and provide those two things to the youth? Character building, true, real, like I said, like you've been doing for 2 years, true, real help, real character building to the youth. And how can we help more in the educational side to the inner city youth? That's where I come from. That's what I believe personally. You know what I mean? With this situation.
Amen. Amen. Yeah. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate your time, man.
Appreciate it too. You have a great rest of the week. Have a great weekend.
All right, you too.